Hi, you're watching Campus TV. I'm here with Lorraine Morgan Brinkhurst, MBE. She is standing to be independent candidate for Bath. We just had our general election big debate. We're now going to ask a few questions just to get to know her a bit better. So my first question is, why did you decide to leave the Lib Dems and stand to be an independent candidate for Bath?
Well, there are various reasons, really. I've been a Liberal Democrat member for 25 years and a Lib Dem councillor on Bath North East Somerset Council. But in the last 4 or 5 years, through this previous government, I started to become concerned about some of the issues, particularly tuition fees. The U-turn on tuition fees I thought was disastrous. That we know that the government over the years by 2042 £90 billion will not be paid back, and at the end of the day there's all that pressure put on students when they leave university. So I felt that was the U-turn was wrong, but also other issues such as fracking, because Bath is a very precious city, a World Heritage City, and I knew that the Lib Dems at their autumn conference in 2013 voted for fracking, and I feel that's the worst thing that could happen to this city. So there are a few issues that were really of concern to me that I felt were impacting on the city. And Bath's my home, so I'm very passionate about the city of Bath, and also tourism is such a vital part of the city, as well as our students and our universities. So those two issues are two main issues that I had concern about, and I realised that the government, the coalition, didn't revisit any of those. So I realised then that I had to stand by the City of Bath, and my principles were to walk away.
Do you think that if you had been chosen as MP for the Lib Dems, you'd have still left them, or would you have carried on?
Yes, very honestly, I was asked if I would put my name forward to stand for the City of Bath, to stand as a prospective parliamentary candidate, and I wasn't successful. But there was no animosity after that. You know, it was a process, and I stayed on the Lib Dem fundraising committee in Bath throughout last summer. So after the April PPC elections, I didn't walk away in a huff. I stayed on the fundraising committee, but then people also started to approach me. I had businesses, local residents, because I've been a councillor for 20 years, but I've also got a business in the city. I have an events business in the city for the last 11 years. And people started to approach me saying they wanted a local candidate to stand, and they realised that my heart is in the city. So there were lots of factions sort of coming into it, was my principles, but also the fact that people were looking for a local candidate. So in January, after discussion with my family, I made that big decision. But I absolutely know it's the right decision. Whatever happens, on the 8th of May, I'll put my head on my pillow and I'll know that I did the right thing and I'm putting Bath first.
That's good. So to still about the right thing, be the first ever female MP to be elected in Bath should happen.
Yes.
I think it's part of a wider problem in British politics. What would you do, or what do you think could be done to reduce the gender gap in Parliament?
Oh, well, for people to vote for me. That would help. I think it is important, because you see that in council. They're still in Bath North East Somerset Council. There are not many women councillors, and the majority are men. And I do believe that more women should have the opportunity to stand, particularly for Parliament as well, to be representative. Because if you think of my background, not only being a councillor and mayor and running my own company, but also, you know, having had 6 children, and I've got 8 grandchildren, and you know, I think that we've got a lot of life experiences women can bring into Parliament, and I think that's really, really important. But I know that the major parties are still not addressing that in the way they should.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think women aren't sort of allowed into these positions as much as they are?
I do wonder if it's also because you know, women who've got families know that it's a huge commitment. So for me, also, I would probably think, would I have stood for Parliament a few years ago? Possibly not when I had a young family, but my children have grown up. But also in council, we've tried to address it to encourage more women to come in through offering to support with childcare and all of that. And I think that's really important, because that's why a lot of women are not entering Parliament, or some of us are coming later on because of our family commitments. Okay. Because it still does tend to flow that way, that the women are very often mothers are the main person at home.
Thanks for that. I want to move on now to student apathy. Right now it's an all-time low, or apathy of politics in general. What do you think can be done to increase turnout, more specifically with students, but more general, what can be done to decrease apathy across the whole country?
Well, something that we've actually found is also using modern technology, social media, all of that, and engaging with young people. And we've used that quite a lot within our campaign. I think people are a bit tired of the traditional routes of the knocking on the doors. You know, you've just got in from work, or people are putting the children to bed, and you've got somebody on a cold night, the front door's open. I think it is about finding new ways of engaging with young people, and I think that, to me, that's vitally important, because you know, the decisions that either councillors make or MPs make have an impact on everybody's lives. So young people should also have the opportunity to listen, but also have a voice as well. And I've tried to do that, even though I'm talking a lot now. As an independent, for me, the campaign is about listening, because I can truly listen without having a party manifesto that I have to adhere to. I can actually take the concerns of Bath people and Bath residents to Parliament.
So that's actually been quite nicely to my next question, which is, do you think as an independent candidate you could really represent Bath in Parliament?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, with talking about my experience of 20 years in council, campaigns that I've been involved with since the 80s, so I'm now showing my age, but also I've sat on national committees. So for me personally, I have the experience and I have the competency and the confidence to do it. But secondly, as an independent, I know that after this election there will be no one overall party running the country. So all the independent people that become MPs and all the small parties will have a huge say, because if one party has a fantastic pensions policy, then I will have the freedom as an independent to vote for it. If another has a great NHS policy, I will have the freedom to vote for it. So one thing about being an independent is the fact that I will have that freedom, and I will not have a party telling me what to do. We won't see U-turns as we saw in Bath with our former MP in the city. So I believe independents and smaller parties will have a voice in Parliament, because those larger parties will want our votes for their policies.
Do you think these large parties will want, just like you are, just one vote in Parliament? Do you think they'll really bother to take your needs seriously? Yeah. They could instead go to other parties like the SNP or
they will court all the small parties, all the independents. Across the country, there are 109 people standing as independents, with 650 MPs in Parliament. So 109, there's a big swathe now moving across to independents. And we've seen that within Bath North East Somerset, 22 people are standing as independents for the council. And across the country, in Wales, in Somerset, in Frome, in Somerset. So there is that big swathe moving across. And so the smaller
parties... How much of the vote do they get at Invest?
Sorry?
How much of the vote do they get, usually, in the polls?
Well, in the last Parliament, there were only about 12 independent council MPs. Sorry, I don't have the statistics to hand.
That's fine,
but there were 12. But now, all of a sudden, there are a lot more people standing, a lot more people who feel they can truly represent their communities, their cities and towns as an independent. And as I said, with the fact that the larger parties will still need votes, need those MPs' votes to get their policies through. So they will definitely court the independents and the small parties, definitely.
Well, I think it's quite interesting, because if you're an independent candidate, you can sort of say what you want in terms of you're not tied by a party line. So I suppose the students would quite like to know what you stand for. So I think, what do you think is the biggest threat to national security?
Oh, national security. We recently had a debate on national security, and we know that the next Parliament will have to make a decision on Trident. And I know that in a way this country could be seen as quite vulnerable, and we've also seen and heard recently how Russia planes have been seen on the coast and have been escorted away from the country. But my concerns are that we do have to invest also in national security within the technology as well as looking at, do we invest in Trident?
I hate to interrupt, we're running out of time. So in one word, what do you think is the biggest threat to national security?
The biggest threat is ISIS and all those radical organisations, particularly using social media, and that's where funding should be put.
And the last question is austerity. Do you believe it should be continued or reduced? as a policy?
Okay, austerity, and it's a big issue.
Yeah.
With
Sorry, I don't have much time.
No, that's fine, with the main parties. And I know we have to look at that, and we've looked at that ourselves, having been a councillor for a long time. I know what it's like to try and balance the books and the budget. So there is an element that austerity will have to continue, but I think there's a way of reinvesting the money in a different way to be able to help more people.
Thank you very much. It's been really interesting talking to you. You're watching Campus TV. Please vote in the elections. We make a real difference as a student body. Even just going to spoil your ballot paper or vote for an independent candidate. The choice is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.